When you walk through a Canadian city today, it doesn't feel like one country, it feels like the whole world stitched together. In Toronto, more than half the people you meet weren't even born in Canada. They came from places thousands of miles apart. India, China, Nigeria, the Philippines, Iran, and beyond. Step outside during rush hour, and it's like a global parade in motion. You'll hear Hindi and Punjabi on one side of the street, Mandarin and Arabic on the other. Someone's playing Afrobeats from their car, while a cafe nearby smells like Ethiopian coffee. On one single block, you might see a South Asian grocery store beside a Somali barbershop, a Korean barbecue restaurant, and a Jamaican bakery with reggae playing softly through the door. Everywhere you turn, there's a reminder that Canada isn't just multicultural, it's built on multiculturalism. But for many outsiders, it's puzzling. Why Canada? Why do people from almost every culture on Earth end up here, and not just for a visit, but to stay permanently? The answer isn't just friendly borders or good jobs. It goes much deeper than that. Canada has spent decades quietly shaping itself into a safe zone for people looking for something the world often fails to give them: security, fairness, and respect. Here, your accent doesn't define your worth. Your skin color doesn't decide your opportunities. In most places, diversity is something that happens to a country. In Canada, it's something they chose. And that choice decades ago changed everything. It made this cold northern land a global home for people chasing warmth, safety, and a fair shot at life. Because Canada didn't just open its borders, it opened the idea that a nation could belong to everyone. Canada's story of immigration didn't start by accident, it was built, step by step, through a vision. After World War II, the country needed workers. Huge areas of land sat empty, industries were growing, and cities needed people. But the population was small. Canada realized something early. If it wanted to grow, it had to invite the world in. So, they did something few countries dared to do. They made immigration part of their national identity. By the 1960s, Canada removed race-based immigration rules, something most nations still struggled with. Instead of choosing people by color or background, they started choosing by skill, education, and potential. It wasn't about where you came from anymore, but what you could bring. That shift changed everything. The government introduced a point-based immigration system, the first of its kind. It judged people fairly on things like their English or French ability, their job skills, and their education level. It was simple, transparent, and fair, and it made Canada a magnet for dreamers, workers, and families from every corner of the globe. Then came the second wave, refugees. From Vietnam in the 1970s to Syria and Afghanistan in more recent years, Canada opened its arms to those escaping war and crisis. But what made it special wasn't just that the government helped. Ordinary Canadians did too. Families sponsored refugees with their own money. Communities came together to help strangers start new lives. That spirit of shared kindness became part of the Canadian DNA. Today, Canada brings in around 500,000 newcomers every year. They don't just fill jobs, they shape the country's future. They become doctors, teachers, engineers, business owners, artists, and neighbors. In most countries, immigration feels like a challenge. In Canada, it feels like teamwork. Because when you open your door to the world gives something back, it builds your home stronger than before. When people first move to Canada, they usually come for opportunity, better jobs, good schools, or a safer future for their children. But what makes them stay is something deeper. At first, the country can seem cold, literally. Winters are harsh, and the snow never seems to end. But beneath that icy surface, there's warmth everywhere. The kind that comes from people, not weather. You'll see it in small things like a stranger holding the door when your hands are full of groceries, or neighbors shoveling snow for the elderly down the street. There's a quiet kindness here, something unspoken but felt. No one shouts about being generous, they just are. And then there's safety. In Canada, children walk to school alone. Women jog at night. People leave laptops on cafe tables and come back to find them untouched. That sense of security is something many newcomers have never known before, and once they feel it, it's hard to imagine living without it again. It's not perfect, of course. Some struggle to find work at first, some feel homesick, and others face moments of loneliness. But over time, that changes. People build little communities, Filipino bakeries, Indian temples, Somali barbershops, Chinese festivals. Each culture finds its corner, and together they create something bigger, a patchwork that feels like home for everyone. The truth is, immigrants don't just adapt to Canada, they reshape it. Every meal shared, every tradition celebrated, adds a new color to the country's identity. Walk down a Toronto street, and you'll see Diwali lights next to Christmas trees, Ramadan iftars happening the same week as Canada Day barbecues. That's the real secret. People stay because Canada doesn't ask them to erase who they are. It simply says bring your culture, your story, your dreams, and add them to ours. In the end, it's not the promise of money or comfort that keeps people here. It's belonging. That quiet feeling that you can finally breathe, be safe, and be yourself all at once. Of course, Canada isn't a dream for everyone. Behind the smiling faces and peaceful streets, there are real struggles that newcomers face every single day. The first is the cost of living. Housing in cities like Vancouver and Toronto has become almost impossible for many new families. Rent can take half a paycheck, sometimes more. Some share apartments with strangers just to afford a place to sleep. For immigrants who dreamed of owning a home, that dream can feel distant. Then there's finding work. Even with years of experience, many skilled immigrants find their qualifications aren't recognized in Canada. Doctors drive taxis. Engineers take warehouse jobs. Teachers start over from scratch. It's humbling and frustrating. You come here full of ambition, but the system quietly tells you to start again. And yet they stay. Because despite the challenges, something keeps them going: hope. Hope that their children will grow up in a safer world. Hope that their accent won't matter in the next job interview. Hope that someday this new country will truly feel like home. And little by little, it does. They find a favorite coffee shop. They make a friend who listens. Their kids come home from school saying, at the end of every sentence, and somehow, that small thing means everything. That's the balance of life in Canada for immigrants. It's not easy, but it's worth it. Every snowy morning, every second job, every night studying for a new license, it all builds a story of persistence and quiet strength. Canada may not hand out success easily, but it gives people something far more valuable: the chance to build it. And maybe that's what truly makes Canada full of immigrants. Not because it's perfect, but because it's possible. Every year, Canada quietly reshapes itself through immigration. It's not just about filling jobs, it's about building identity. Immigrants don't replace what's already here, they add new layers to it. Walk into any Canadian school, and you'll see kids with different skin tones, accents, and stories sitting side by side, all singing "Oh Canada" together. That's not just diversity, that's unity built on respect. In small towns, immigrants reopen dyeing shops, revive schools, and fill empty neighborhoods. A Syrian family might open a bakery in a quiet prairie town, and suddenly that town has new life again. In the north, Filipino nurses keep hospitals running. In tech cities like Waterloo, Indian and Chinese engineers build startups that compete globally. Immigrants aren't just visitors, they're the reason Canada keeps growing. And maybe that's Canada's quiet genius. While other countries close their borders in fear, Canada opens its doors with structure and trust. It knows that every new arrival brings not just hands to work, but hearts to belong. Immigration isn't just part of Canada's story, it is the story. If you ask an immigrant why they came, the answers sound different, but the feeling is the same. Some came to escape war. Some came for education. Some came just to start over. But when you listen closely, what they all really wanted was peace. Peace to raise their kids without fear. Peace to walk home at night without looking over their shoulder. Peace to simply exist and be respected for it. Canada offers that peace in quiet, ordinary ways. A friendly nod from a stranger. A bus driver waiting an extra second for you to get on. A teacher who helps your child learn English with patience. It's those small human moments that make people stay, because it's not about free healthcare or clean air. It's about kindness. Kindness that doesn't need to be loud. Kindness that makes you feel seen, even when you speak with an accent. That's the kind of peace that can change someone's life forever. So why is Canada full of immigrants? Because it's one of the few places in the world where being different doesn't make you an outsider. It makes you part of the story. In Canada, you don't have to forget where you came from to belong. You can wear your sari, speak your mother tongue, celebrate your festival, and still be Canadian. That's rare. And that's powerful. The truth is, Canada isn't perfect. It's cold, expensive, and sometimes unfair. But it's also forgiving, hopeful, and endlessly open-hearted. It's a country built not on blood or race, but on belief. The belief that humanity works better when it works together. So, here's the real question. Would you move to Canada if you had the chance? Tell me in the comments, what's your dream country, and why? And if you love exploring the real stories behind how people live, move, and find belonging around the world, subscribe to Global Encounter. Every video uncovers how countries shape people, and how people, in turn, shape the world.